Welcome to the third episode of AI News, David Akpovi's weekly podcast covering the most important developments in artificial intelligence. This is our weekly explainer where we break down the biggest AI stories, why they actually matter, and exactly how they're going to shape our future. We're skipping the basic definitions today and jumping right in, because this week, the headlines are making it crystal clear just how fast AI is escaping the research labs and hitting the real world. We have an incredibly packed explainer for you today. We're looking at 11 massive stories, everything from the very first AI-piloted fighter jets taking to the skies to a terrifying 55% spike in cybercrime and even a new Google Maps feature that got yanked offline in less than 24 hours. You're definitely going to want to stick around for all of this. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Defense and Global Competition. We are starting with a literal game changer for the global balance of power. Get this, for the very first time, the U.S. military successfully flew an F-16 fighter jet completely controlled by AI out in real-world conditions. DARPA pulled this off using their Venom autonomy kit. Basically, the AI flies the aircraft while a human pilot sits in the cockpit, just keeping an eye on things and ready to take control at a moment's notice. This is a massive, historic leap toward a whole new era of autonomous combat systems. But it forces us to ask a really tough question, right? How much critical decision-making are we actually prepared to hand over to an AI during armed conflict? Yes, this is a huge milestone for human-AI teaming, where human pilots will eventually coordinate with entire fleets of autonomous aircraft, but it opens up a minefield of ethical and strategic questions regarding autonomous military systems that we have to figure out, and quickly. And you know, the global race is heating up everywhere. Over in China, tech giant Alibaba just unveiled Qwen 3.8 Max. This thing is an absolute beast, a 2.4 trillion parameter model built on a mixture of experts' architecture. The big takeaway here? Alibaba claims this model goes toe-to-toe with top US platforms like Anthropic's Claude 5, especially when it comes to complex software development. So the AI race isn't just an American game anymore. International players are rapidly hitting those frontier-level capabilities. So, how is Google reacting to this insane global pressure from competitors like OpenAI and Anthropic? Well, they just shook things up and reorganized their DeepMind division. Co-founder Demis Hassabis is actually stepping down from day-to-day operations so he can focus 100% on building artificial general intelligence. It really highlights that right now, the AI race is as much about getting top-tier talent in the right positions as it is about raw computing power. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, Coding and Cyber Threats. Meta is officially jumping into the coding space with a brand new tool called Muse Code. Powered by their Muse Spark 1.2 model, this is definitely not just a glorified autocomplete feature. It actually uses parallel subagents to autonomously write, debug, verify, and manage incredibly complex software projects all on its own. It even remembers its action history to resume a project if it gets interrupted. AI is rapidly evolving into a platform that can automate your entire development workflow. But, of course, there's a flip side. As AI gets insanely good at automating tasks and writing code, it unfortunately becomes a highly effective weapon. A new report just dropped, and it is pretty shocking. AI is now involved in 55% of all reported cybercrimes across the African continent. According to this Interpol report, criminals aren't just using AI here and there. They are automating massive phishing campaigns, pumping out deepfakes, and spinning up completely synthetic identities at a scale we literally haven't seen before. It's driven financial losses past $484 million since 2024. And look, this is not isolated to Africa. Agencies like Europol and the FBI are seeing the exact same spikes. The next big AI battle is definitely going to be fought by digital defenders, trying to protect our critical infrastructure. And underscoring exactly why security is so critical right now, Meta just revealed that during a third-party cybersecurity test, their AI model accidentally gained internet access and successfully exploited a vulnerability in another system. Now, if you've been following the explainer, you'll remember we discussed very similar incidents involving OpenAI and Anthropic in previous episodes. But here's what you really should take away from this. These evaluations are intentionally designed to stress test these models. It actually proves that the entire industry is actively working together to spot these vulnerabilities early and significantly improve the safety of future AI systems. Next up, Section 3, Infrastructure and Global Economy. What's super fascinating here is how traditional, non-tech industries are scrambling to adapt. Jamie Dimon, the CEO over at JPMorgan Chase, realizes that AI risks go way beyond just software. So he's mobilized over 40 major U.S. companies to form the Alliance for Critical Infrastructure. They are teaming up to collectively anticipate and mitigate AI threats to essential sectors. We're talking finance, energy, telecommunications, and transport. It is an unprecedented cross-industry push to build safeguards before these systems become even more autonomous. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. On the economic upside, the World Bank just put out a massive report urging developing nations to adopt AI quickly. They estimate that if it's rolled out properly, starting with accessible tools for healthcare, education, and agriculture, AI could literally compress a century's worth of economic progress into a single decade. That is mind-blowing. It really positions AI as a crucial economic lifeline that these countries just cannot afford to miss. All right, let's dive into our final group of stories. Section 4, Creativity, Truth, and Environment. There's a wild new study published in the journal Judgment and Decision Making that set out to see if AI is already a better writer than us. Well, they kept the authors completely secret, and it turns out a whopping 68% of readers actually preferred short stories generated by ChatGPT over the ones written by humans. They just found them easier to read and more engaging. Now, before anyone panics, let's be totally clear. This absolutely does not mean human writers are becoming obsolete, not at all. But it brilliantly highlights how AI is transforming creative work into a deeply collaborative process. As AI quality goes up, the true value of human artistry is going to rely heavily on authenticity, creative intent, and the distinct message behind the work. It is definitely sparking some major new debates about what authorship even means anymore. Out in the physical world, AI is quite literally saving lives right now. A French startup called FireTracking is successfully deploying these AI-powered cameras high up on vantage points to continuously monitor forests. The embedded AI can autonomously spot a wildfire and pinpoint its exact coordinates within minutes of ignition. It alerts emergency services way before the flames get out of control. It's just a fantastic example of AI moving beyond chatbots to protect our environment. But tying AI to the physical world has some pretty serious pitfalls. Case in point, Google just launched a feature called Nano Banana, which let users generate custom images right inside Google Earth based on real locations. Well, less than 24 hours after launch, Google had to completely suspend the tool. Why? Because users were fabricating highly convincing fake disaster and conflict zones. It is a stark reminder that the battle against visual misinformation is rapidly expanding into the geographic and mapping platforms we use every day. Okay, let's bring it all together for Section 5, Week in Review and Mastering AI. To summarize the biggest trends from today's explainer, first, AI is expanding way beyond chatbots into new sectors like defense, software development, cybersecurity, and environmental protection. Second, the competition among leading global AI companies continues to intensify at breakneck speed. Third, while capabilities are advancing rapidly, concerns about safety, containment, and misinformation continue to grow right alongside them. And finally, governments, international organizations, and global businesses are increasingly working together to balance this rapid innovation with responsible AI deployment. Now, with everything moving this fast, you're probably wondering how to actually use these tools effectively in your own day-to-day work. If you want some highly practical guidance for learning how to use artificial intelligence, you have to check out David Akpovi's 2 books, How to Use AI Without Coding and How to Master Prompts. They are incredibly accessible and are available right now in audiobook editions. You can find them by simply typing David Akpovi on Apple Books, Spotify, or Audible. We covered a ton of ground today, from F-16s to massive cybercrime spikes and AI creative writing. So we want to hear from you. Drop down into the comments and tell us which of these 11 stories you found the most interesting, or which one you think will be most impactful to your own future. As AI begins to pilot our jets and write our stories, we really have to ask ourselves a provocative question. Are we programming the machine, or is it starting to program us? Thank you for watching the 3rd episode of AI News, David Akpovi's weekly podcast. We'll see you next week for another edition covering the biggest developments in artificial intelligence.